Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Becoming Cleo. I am so excited that you're here. Today I'm going to be giving you guys a garden update, a plant tour, and then we're just going to have a little bit of chit chat about like life and plants. But before we get started, I posted a garden update almost 3 months ago and my garden looks completely different since I posted that video. I'm going to insert a little clip right here so you guys can see what my garden was looking like at 3 months. And then I have another video. I think that one is like maybe 6 months. I'm not too sure, but I'll include a picture here and a picture here so you guys can see the dates and what my garden looked like at each different state. But to give you guys some backstory, since posting that video, I actually had to uproot all of the seeds and then start over completely with my garden. I don't know what was happening, if it was just like the heat of summer during that heat wave in California, or if it was just the sun, but all of my plants had essentially withered away. And so I uprooted everything, I replanted everything, and now my garden is blossoming. So if you don't know, I'm a beginner and I'm still learning how to do this gardening thing. So it's been a lot of trial and error trying to figure it out. But needless to say, I think I kind of got it figured out just a little bit with the way my garden is looking. Anyway, I'm excited to show y'all. So we're going to go out back to my patio and then I'm going to show you guys my garden update. So I'm outside on my patio and I want to show you guys the thing that actually saved my garden and that allowed it to grow back beautifully. This is the shade cloth, and what I did was I pinned it to the fence or to the gate behind me, and then I used this to cover my plants. So this is what actually kept it protected from the sun and from the heat during those months. You can get You can pretty much get any size you want as long as it covers your garden bed completely, but this is the thing that got the garden together. But now to show you guys what the garden looks like, I'm so excited. This is the beautiful garden update. So here, peppers. So this is the peppers here. I actually think this is broccoli that somehow got mixed up with the peppers, but all of these beautiful little babies here are peppers and they are growing so beautifully. And then once we get to the middle, this is the broccoli. As you can see, the broccoli is probably doing the best and it's growing the tallest and it's flourishing really well. So this is the broccoli update. And then there's a little baby one right here that you can't see. And we have the spinach, which is actually also doing really well, but taking the longest time to grow. But we've got 4 baby spinach bunches right here. And this is what the garden looks like as of today, October 2nd. And it looks so good. Okay, so that is what my garden looks like. As you guys can see, I am so excited. It's growing beautifully. I'm even more excited for it to continue to grow and to get taller and to really just get to the point where I can actually use the vegetables in my garden. So I have peppers, broccoli, and spinach. But that's it for the garden update right now. If you want more frequent updates, feel free to follow me on my Instagram where I post more about my garden and how it's coming along. And so on there, I think I do like 2 weeks to once a month for a garden update. So if you want to follow along closer to that journey, be sure to check me out on Instagram. But now now it's time to get to the second part of the video, which is the plant tour of all my beautiful plants. I have always loved plants for as long as I can remember, but I don't think that I always had a green thumb. I feel like my green thumb really came about, I want to say 2020, May 2021. I feel like that's when my green thumb really started to come about. I had this one plant, it was a monstera, and I actually had that plant for 2 years before it also withered away. But I had taken great care of that plant for 2 years and it grew so much, but it just got really bad sun damage when I left it outside by accident. And so after keeping that plant alive for that long and it flourished that well, I just decided to keep buying more plants and just to continue with like this plant journey. So I'm going to show you guys all the different plants that I have and then talk a little bit about them and then tell you about the different names that they have too. So who should I start with? First plant that I want to talk about is Angelou, after Maya Angelou. And this is a pothos plant. I'm not 100% sure what kind of pothos it is, but this is Angelou and she's growing really, really well. Her leaves are starting to drop, which that's super exciting. And I think that I've had this plant for like maybe 6 months. Fun fact about Angelou was that she was really about to be on her last leg, but moving her from the living room to the kitchen, somehow that really revived her and made her grow beautifully. So this is Angelou. Okay, plants are a little bit bigger, so I do have to get up and then take you guys with me so you can see these plants too. So the next one that I want to show you guys is a snake plant that my best friend actually named Fernandad. So I don't know why exactly he chose that name, but we decided to go with it. This is Fernandad, the snake plant, and Fernandad is also like 1 year or so. I think I've had this plant for 1 year. Fun fact is that snake plants are super easy to take care of. Really what I do, not just for my snake plant Fernandad, but for all my plants, is I fill their soil and then I use that to decide if they need to be watered or not. So when I touch my hand to the soil, if nothing comes up off of my hand, like no dirt when I touch the soil, then it probably needs to be watered. But if I touch the soil and then I have dirt on my fingers that I use to touch it, then I know that the plant has already had enough watering. So I typically just do like a soil test to decide what my plant needs. Then on top of that, I typically also research each plant to know like how much sunlight it needs, and I try to place it in my apartment in the place where it would thrive the best. So this is a one bed though, so we're figuring it out as we go. Okay, so this next plant actually does not have a name. So remember I said that I had that monstera that I kept alive for like a year or so? I have a really bad habit of like keeping plants alive, having them do really well, and then once these plants like wither away, I'll buy the exact same plant and then I'll just give it like a 2.0 name, you know? So the monstera that I had was Gemma Earl, and then I got a new plant and I named her Gemma Earl 2.0, and I don't want to do that anymore because this plant is not Gemma Earl 2.0. This is a whole new plant from a whole different place. Yeah, for a different place. A whole new plant from a whole different place. And so I'm open to naming suggestions for my monstera. So this is my monstera here. And she's still very young, very new. I think right now what my monstera needs the most that she doesn't get is sunlight. My apartment really just has sunlight, really good sunlight. Like I think maybe after 12 o'clock, that's when the sunlight really peaks. And then there's like certain parts in the apartment that get the most sunlight, really the living room, but then it like peaks out from the window to very specific parts. So I don't think that Gemma's been getting enough sun. And she also needs to be watered as well, but not Gemma, y'all. I just said I'm not going to name her Gemma. But yeah, this is my monstera who needs a name. So right now, I think it's like 3 something, and the light from the window is really reflecting in this place. I'm going to stick Gemma more in the sun because monsteras are plants that need more so indirect sunlight instead of direct. Just to show you guys what I mean by like the soil test. If I move some of her leaves up here. So the soil is really dry right now, and you may be able to tell by looking at it, but I typically just touch the soil like this, check my finger, and as you can see, nothing came off of it, which means the soil is dry and needs to be watered. So that's what I mean when I say a soil test. The newest plant, who also doesn't have a name yet, is a Birds of Paradise plant. Also my biggest plant too. And I only just got this plant a few months ago, so I'm really still learning more about it and how to care for it. But so far, I think it's doing pretty well. Some leaves at the bottom, I think they got too much sun. I think this is like sun damage here. And then the other ones got way too sunny, so they're no longer here. So I'm really still learning how to care for this one, but when I got it, the woman at the place told me to water it every 2 weeks. So I've really been trying to stick to that schedule. And then we also have a new leaf coming in right here. That's super exciting because it hasn't even blossomed yet. Like it's already this tall, but it hasn't come in yet. So I'm super excited to see what a new leaf would look like. I think this is like the first new leaf this plant will have. So I also don't have a name for this one yet. I'm not sure. I haven't really like had a name pop into my head, or had a name that I felt like I was called to name this plant yet. So right now I'm currently unnamed. I try to name all my plants because I feel like it just helps me to care for them better, and then to just be more mindful of their needs. So each and every one of my plants has a name based on what name I feel called to give them, what name I feel like they best represent. And so that's like the reason why I do it. It just really helps me to remember, like, care for your plants like they're also your babies too. So this is the newest plant, doing really, really well, but you know, we're still figuring this one out here. And I have one more plant I just remember, because this plant, it was in the same shape as Angelo, where it's another pothos, where it was in the living room and it just didn't thrive. So I moved it to the kitchen, but it's not having the exact same effect that Angelo had when I moved Angelo from the living room into the kitchen. So this plant, when I first got it, it was so beautiful. All the leaves were like long, and then somehow the living room is just not the best environment for this pothos. And I've been trying to revive it and bring it back to life, but I don't know exactly like what the difference is with this plant than Angelo. So I don't know. I'm still working on it, but I feel like I see the tiniest of progress. So I think keeping it in here might be the best move for right now. And then maybe I'll try the bedroom and see if that's helpful. But this is not the best environment for this specific plant to thrive in. And I'll show you guys like the little bit of new growth that I'm referring to. Little baby new leaf right here that's starting to come in, which makes me feel like maybe this is just a slow grower. And then this is also a new leaf that came in. So there's like 2 new leaves that came in, but they're just not growing the same. But I don't want to give up on it yet, because I feel like it can still thrive. I just need to find the right environment. But this is another pothos right here too. All the plants that I have and take care of. I love all these plants individually, and while I'm still trying to figure out how to best care for each and every one of them, it's always a journey when it comes to plants and like learning the things that they need. I thought you could have 2 of the same plant, but it's almost like the recipes may not work for one plant that it would another, just because our plants are so unique. Which kind of brings me into what I wanted to talk about. So I'm taking an herbalism class, and my instructor Berenice has really introduced me in the class to some new concepts that I hadn't really thought of before. And I just want to use this time to reflect on those, and then to share some of those concepts and thoughts that I've been having. So the first concept is asking plants for permission, and also giving plants offerings. So I never thought about plants like that before. So for me, the concept is still a little bit unfamiliar, but I want to talk about it anyway. An example of this is I had to do a project for class called a flower essence. I'm going to leave the definition of what a flower essence is right here. But essentially what the project is you find a plant or a flower, and then you take a glass or a jar of distilled water, and you place that glass or jar directly below of the plant or the flower whose energetic properties you want to go into the water. And so for me, for example, I have hydrangeas outside on my patio, and for this project you had to leave the water outside for 4 to 6 hours. And my patio was really the only place where I felt comfortable leaving this water, and so that's why I left it. But when it comes to asking plants for permission and to provide them with an offering, I thought about the hydrangeas outside and how I don't necessarily intentionally care for them how I care for my garden. Like, I'll make a mental note to go outside, water my garden, check on it, cover it if it's too sunny, but I don't necessarily do the same to the hydrangeas. These 2 concepts that she introduced are supposed to more so help you think about plants and your relationship to them, and not think about them as much as like what they can do for you and how you can use them. So to get back to the story, instead of me just using the energetic properties of the hydrangea outside that I don't really take care of that well or that intentionally, before I even created this flower essence and used the hydrangea's energetic properties, I did ask the hydrangea for permission, which I felt like was something I needed to do, because I didn't want to just use the properties and then like never care for the plant again. And then the offering that I gave it was water. So I just decided to water the hydrangeas, and then just to be more intentional about how I'm caring for them if I'm going to decide to use their energetic properties. And I feel like that allowed me to really think more about my relationship with plants and not thinking so much about like, okay, well, what can this plant do for me? But just thinking about like how I'm living my life with the plants. That was like two of the concepts that she introduced to us, and it really has just made me more intentional about the plants that I care for in my home, about my garden, and just like seeing plants outside on my walk. Like, I don't want it to be one-sided with nature, because nature is there to help us and we can also help nature. So I kind of just wanted to make sure that I'm just being more mindful of like the language that I use that she introduced us to. The second thing for my herbalism class is that I've also been thinking about plants as it relates to ancestors. So a lot of times in this class, my instructor specifically, she talks about how her mom has like a really strong relationship with plants and like plant medicine, and that's where her love for it comes from. But for me, on the other hand, I don't really feel like there was this person that was into plants or plant medicine that made me also want to be into plant medicines. And it's almost like, you know how you could be into something and no one else in your family is really into it like you, and you just wonder like where you got this from. Like, is it something you've just naturally been into? Well, I genuinely feel like there's probably an ancestor who is really into the thing that you're into. So for example, if you really love to draw, let's say drawing is like the best thing for you, it's your passion, it's the thing you want to do with your life, and no one else in your family is into drawing, like there's probably some ancestor out there who really loved to draw just as much as you did. And I just feel like sometimes we don't have access to that information, or other times we just don't know the extent as to which they were into what we were into. And in class, our co-facilitator John asks us, what are stories of plants in your life, in your environment, and in your lineage? And for me specifically, for some reason, I thought about lineage, even though I just said I don't have that person that's like really into plant medicine. I thought about lineage because I thought about my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, who was really into plants and had a garden in his home and was growing vegetables and a variety of other fruits and whatnot. I think about him specifically, and I don't have that much information or knowledge about him, but I do know that he did have a love for plants and growing them. And I feel like he's probably just one of the ancestors that I really got my love for like plants and plant medicine from. But at the same time, as someone who feels disconnected to their ancestors because a lot of times their memories just don't live on, I feel like I'm still trying to figure out my way when it comes to getting to know them and developing that relationship. And so someone in class who shared the exact same sentiments as me also shared this quote, and they said, where you feel like there's disconnect, there's information there too. And for me, that quote really resonated with me. I feel like they summed it up in a way that I just couldn't sum up. But that's how I've been feeling about plants and plant care and plant medicine, is that I feel like there's so much disconnect when it comes to ancestors, especially in my family. But I still feel like there's like these little tidbits and information that's there that kind of just give us a little bit of like guidance to know that this is why this is, or this is why that is. So I don't know. Those are just some of the things that my class has had me thinking about. So I kind of just wanted to share that with you all. And part of me feels like this was just like a long tangent that I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, that it made sense. So if you're watching this part and you're following along and you feel what I'm saying and you get it, leave a comment below and let me know. Because yeah, I'm trying to communicate and express that in the best way that I know, but it's not translating how I have it in my head out of my mouth. Y'all feel me? Okay. So let me know if that makes sense, or let me know if I need to make a separate video, more detailed, explaining what exactly I meant by everything that I just said. Regardless, just let me know in the comments, y'all. But that also is the end of my video. So we did the garden update, the plant tour, and then a little chit chat. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.